Hello, lover. I'm, I'm
I love
looking
you.
at my bestie, Britta Joe. We are coming off of her first retreat with the Stay or Go community, and we wanted to sit down with each other and do a download and exploration about what we've learned about community through the process of deciding to stay or go in a marriage, as well as the lessons for those women who have chosen to move on in their lives and ended their marriages. So, welcome, Britta. I'm so glad we get to do this.
Me too. And thank you, Quinn, for taking the reins on this episode. We
Mm-hmm.
chatted beforehand, y'all. I am a little bit recovering from just such a big experience. It was huge. It really was a huge experience. Plus, where I'm in some flux with, I just started taking ADHD medication a month ago. It was going amazing, but experiencing some insomnia. So I'm having to change my dose when I'm taking it. And I told Quinn before we got on this call, like the non-diagnosed, but definitely there. I'm pretty sure it's what I have. ADHD is very strong today.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked for her to take the reins on this episode to guide us through it. And y'all, she has created an incredible episode that I'm really excited to get to. I get to be the one that gets to sit back and she's going to take us through it. So thank
All
you,
right,
Quinn.
I got you.
Yeah.
So, when we go back to that weekend, it was a week ago now. And what was revealed for us is how deeply women both need and thrive in community. You and I have had some other kinds of community, but this
Nothing.
was like
Nothing
next
like
level.
this.
Next level.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so as you know, I am reading Brene Brown's new book, Strong Ground. And she talks about authenticity, she talks about connection, but she said this thing that I think was a little bit provocative, and I want to start here. So, Strong Ground on page 22, she says, we are neurobiologically hardwired for connection. And in the absence of connection, there is always suffering. And that just hit me.
Whoa, that
That
is
hit me.
hitting me too.
Yeah, we're hardwired for connection. And in the absence of that, there is always suffering.
Always.
Okay. And that's a big claim. That's a big
It's a
claim.
huge, huge
Always,
claim.
right?
But if anybody can make that claim and back it up, my money's on Brene.
Right?
I'm
I
like, bring
know.
it. Show me, Brene. I am here with you. Let's go.
I know. Amen. So I was thinking about the loss of connection throughout my life and questioning, has there always been suffering when I have felt a loss of connection? Whether it was childhood trauma, things that happened on the playground or with my parents, whether it was in my marriage, through
Mm.
my divorce, leaving my faith community. And for me, I can say, yes, I see a pattern of suffering from disconnection, lack
Yeah.
of connection. But I wanted to hear it from your point of view.
Well, first thing that comes to mind is when you're saying this is the complexity that a lot of women experience when they're like, I want to get divorced, but then there's grief as well,
Yeah.
which would support this idea that even when it's a disconnection that you want, there
Mm-hmm.
is still a form of suffering, which I have never called it suffering before. I've always called it like a grief because it's a type of death.
Mm-hmm.
And with an ending with a death, there are these complex feelings of loss. So I'm wondering if, like she said, in the disconnection, it is inherently a type of loss. And,
Mm.
my initial reactions were to think, well, if it's a disconnection from something healthy, I don't think I've suffered as much as I've gained, right? That was my initial thought.
Mhm.
But if I really track back through, no, in every single instance, even in the instances where, like my divorce, I knew I was gaining my connection with myself. I was
Mhm.
losing the connection with my partner, but I was gaining a safer environment for a connection with myself. Yet still, there was
Mhm.
suffering there in the loss of that. The faith community, definitely.
Yeah.
Like, just the feeling of support, that there was, people that I could call, that if I needed, if something went wrong, there was a network or a chain of people that were looking out for me. That was
Yeah.
a piece of suffering that when I left Mormonism, I felt, who do I
Mhm.
call now? If my car breaks down, if my, like, who's there for me, you
Yeah.
know? Um, and then in the disintegration of my family too, a
Mhm.
lot of suffering there.
And you're talking
Eh,
about your family of origin. Is that
yes,
right? Mhm.
yes, yes. And it's making me, I'm so glad we're having this episode, because I
Mhm.
think obviously we coach through our own lenses. We're
Mhm.
humans, we have human brains. We are
Yeah.
never going to be robotic, like neutral, totally neutral. We try
Yeah.
as much as possible when we're coaching clients to do that. But the work that I share through my podcast, that you share through your podcast, comes from our lens and our experiences. And I would say that I think because we had to kind of go through so much suffering and the loss of those, I think we may have idealized, at least I know I did, the independent part of, like, oh, but I can do it on my own. Like, the goal
Yeah.
is to not need community.
Mhm.
The self-sufficient, I'm going to be able to do it. And you and I really did do that for a lot of our journey. And we're getting
Yeah.
to see now just how much that is optional, that you don't, like, the leaps that can be made when you don't try to do it all alone. So yeah,
Yes.
suffering, I think in every instance, all my breakups, right? Every breakup, there was
Yeah.
suffering when I was
Yeah.
dating.
And there is good reason for it, especially as we learn about attachment styles. That's what it brought to mind, that even when I've ended romantic partnerships that I wanted to, that felt like a good move, I knew that there would be a period where I would still crave that connection and long for that person. And I would idealize, look at the shiny parts
Yes,
instead of,
nostalgia.
yes, yes. And that was something that I came to understand and expect. And I like how you questioned the word suffering, because that's a pretty heavy word. And so that is a word she does not define. But I
Hmm.
do want to define connection, because that, as a researcher, this is a definition that she came up with based on her research. So
Oof, okay.
if you have her book, it's page 257 to 260, this definition. Connection is the energy that exists between people when they feel seen, heard, and valued, when they can give and receive without judgment, and when they derive sustenance and strength from the relationship.
Oof.
So if we define connection like that, because I think our examples of connection where we're like, no, it was good that we lost this
Left.
connection. This isn't the connection we were
No,
talking about.
you're exactly right. And what it exposed for me is that you can be experiencing massive suffering in dynamics where it looks like there should be connection, yet you
Yeah.
are not experiencing that kind of a definition of connection.
Yes.
So it just, like, all of a sudden framed out for me, where I'm like, oh, my whole life for a lot of it has been suffering.
Hmm. Even within the faith community, even within a
Yes.
marriage, even within an intact family.
Family. Because if you define connection in this way,
Hmm.
I have only experienced that kind of connection since leaving those constructs, those relationships, those cultures that really were telling me to invest in a more what I would consider performative
Mhm.
connection, or a connection of convenience. Maybe we're
Yeah.
not really seeing each other, but we're both getting, basic needs or things that we need met from each other. I'm playing a role, you're playing a role. Wow.
Yeah. So, for the purpose of this conversation, I want to be clear as to the type of community and
Yes,
connection that we're talking about, because just being in community is not necessarily going to create connection. And what we're
that
really
is,
after is this connection. So, I'm going to read the
yeah.
definition one more time
Okay.
before we dive further in. So, connection is the energy that exists between people when they feel seen, heard, and valued, when they can give and receive without judgment, and when they derive sustenance and strength from the relationship.
Sam.
Oh, right?
Yeah. It lands just so much, like, it just lands for me because as you read it, I'm like, oh, I know what that is.
Yes.
In our relationship, in the community,
Hmm.
we saw that so big in the retreat. We just saw how much, like, it really is real in the community. What we see in the community when translated into women in real life together, it's the same. And then in my partnership, and realizing, wow, how much we lived lives. I mean, how many years, Quinn, did you live without
Oh,
this?
decades. 5
Your
decades? Only 5
Yeah.
decades? The
I
next
mean,
5 are gonna be awesome.
yes. Yes. So, final point that I want to just say on this that my brain is hooked on is the whole, yes, there is always suffering and the loss of some kind of, quote, I'm putting it in air quotes, connection,
Mhm.
right? But this goes back to the, like, short-term pain that so many women want to avoid when it comes to considering divorce, right? Like,
Mhm.
for the long-term gain of, really, you have to give up you have to go through the short-term suffering of losing those kind of, I would say, on like a spectrum, in my view, like a lesser type of connection.
Mhm. Well, it doesn't even fit with this definition of
Yeah,
connection.
what would we
It
even
doesn't even fit. You leave that construct
yeah,
for the
real
opportunity to
connection.
create connection.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Okay.
really want us to stay focused on, we're talking about a very specific
And that
kind
we
of
can't
connection.
even call what you're experiencing previously
Mm-mm.
connection. Like,
No,
this, nope.
no,
What you had,
that
what
was
we
not
had
connection.
was not connection. Woo!
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So I want to talk about how our spiritual traditions, our gathering traditionally of women, was more about embodiment and ritual, myth telling, cyclical awareness, because women are these beautiful, cyclical, wild creatures with our menstrual cycles, our life transitions, creating life, giving life, menopause, becoming the crone from the maiden, the mother, the crone. We have all of these beautiful cycles in our life. And I
Yeah.
think it was when you read Women Who Run with the Wolves that you started to appreciate more of that tradition of
Yes.
women telling myths and sending the younger generations really important information
Mhm.
through those stories. What was that experience like for you?
Oh my God. I remember the first time, I mean, her first chapter is life changing. The way she speaks, the richness of the words, it felt like meeting my mother, like my true mother for the first time, right? Like,
Mm.
here was this, I have to say too, having been raised in religion my whole life, there was my first, like, truly experiencing religion in the framework and the language of my soul.
Mm.
Which if you think, we were raised in a